welcome back to another GeekaWhat video, and today I'm taking you over the best $900 gaming PC build for the months of October, November and December 2016. This would be a great build for that Christmas period, perhaps a present for somebody or some Christmas money that you've got to spend on this. So let me take you over the performance and then the parts that make it possible, but first make sure to drop a like rating and of course to subscribe. Now in terms of 1080p gaming to full HD, you're looking ultra settings across the board at 60 to 100 frames per second in Battlefield 1, Overwatch, Star Wars Battlefront, Tom Clancy's The Division, Fallout 4, all those kind of titles. You're also looking at some incredible 1440p medium to high settings gaming whilst achieving well over 60 frames per second. You can also be a bit adventurous. GTA 5 for example, I've actually seen 4K on this graphics card at medium settings whilst achieving well over 45 to 60 frames per second, providing you notch anti-aliasing down a little bit. This truly is an insane build, and as always we'll kick it off with the CPU. The CPU I went for was Intel's Core i5-6500. It's a quad-core CPU and it's compatible with all of the latest games. This CPU is actually on a lot of the recommended specs for games, and if it's not mentioned on the recommended specs, it's because it's well above it. The i5 is their mid-range kind of mainstream line of CPUs. There really is no point in going for an i7 for gaming. An i7 is purely productivity. By that I mean video editing, photo editing, rendering, that kind of thing, and an i5 is just a perfect CPU for gaming. I went for the 6500, which isn't overclockable but comes clocked at a healthy 3.2 GHz. As soon as you start spending money on overclockable CPUs, you have to spend more on a CPU cooler, a lot more on a motherboard. The CPU itself costs more money and it really doesn't warrant that best price to performance ratio, so it's best to keep it nice and simple. Talking as simple, the motherboard is the ASUS H110M-K. The motherboard comes in at a Micro ATX form factor, which is great. It's the middle of the three main motherboard form factors, so you're not paying a premium for massive, or you're not paying a premium either for small, compact and tight, because they both have their difficulties. This one is a great compromise, gives you all the features you need, support for up to 32 GB of RAM, which you're never going to need in a gaming PC, and a load of other features. A really solid motherboard with the LGA 1151 socket on it we need for the CPU and upcoming generations of Intel chips. For RAM, I chose Corsair's Vengeance LPX. You can get it in black, white, red or blue, but I went for the black to tie in with the colour scheme for this build, which will become more apparent in a moment. It comes clocked at DDR4 at 2400 MHz, which is nice and fast, and I actually have 32 GB of this exact kit in the system I'm recording this video and edit my videos on. I've not had any problems with it whatsoever, and the first ever RAM I bought was the DDR3 variant of this, so I have a lot of trust in this RAM, and it comes in at once again quite a nice price point. In terms of storage, ideally you want a separate SSD and hard drive. However, to get the graphics card that I went for and to give the astronomically good gaming performance, I had to go for a bit of a compromise. It's a hybrid drive, so it's got an SSD kind of features with the hard drive combined. The hard drive portion is 1TB of capacity, 7200 RPM, and the SSD inside of this will automatically, and that flash memory inside will automatically cache your most frequently used applications, games, files, just to increase the speed of your system. An SSD would be a great upgrade later on down the line, however I wanted to stick nicely within the confines of the budget, which is why I went for the Western Digital Caviar Black. 1TB as I already said, and it comes in at a 3.5 inch form factor, which is perfectly normal for any kind of hard drive or SSH. For the GPU, GeekaWhat's GeForce GTX 1070 has an 8GB frame buffer. Insane. Even GTA 5, which is the VRAM whore, could not get through 8GB of this. It is an incredible card, the GTX 1070. GeekaWhat have done some great stuff with their motherboards and graphics cards lately. I've had reviews of many GeekaWhat products on the channel and featured them in numerous build guides. The GTX 1070 is easily the best card at the moment for 1440p, and 1080p, as I mentioned in the introduction, will absolutely be smashed out the park with this graphics card. Not only does it look good as well, keeping that nice black muted colour scheme with some orange accents, it performs like a champ, and it comes overclocked out of the box. It's got a really nice cooler on here, and the GTX 1070 GPU from Nvidia isn't particularly hot anyway. Nevertheless, GeekaWhat have done a great job on this card. In terms of the case, Corsair's Carbide Spec M2 is a Micro ATX mid-tower, meaning it's just big enough for the motherboard and the graphics card we have chosen, but not too big that you've got loads of unnecessary space. It will fit nicely behind a TV if you wanted, under a desk, in a bedroom, a studio, a gaming room, wherever you may be putting it, and it looks good. USB 3, USB 2 and HD audio. It's got a nice big side panel as well, and some great airflow, a really solid case from Corsair. In terms of the power supply, 600 watts is more than enough for this build. It gives plenty of headroom for upgradability later on down the line, and this EVGA 600B unit is 80 plus bronze certified, guaranteeing efficiency of over 80% at all times. But what do I mean by efficiency? Now, if you don't know, anything that takes energy you can't just disappear. Energy doesn't disappear, it converts into different forms. So you've got 600 watts of power going into the unit. Cheaper power supplies will then waste 100 watts of that and just turn it into heat. That heat then escapes and is completely useless. You've essentially just paid for a heater, which is not what you want. You have a heater for a certain job, and this power supply's job is to power the system. Therefore, this 80 plus bronze unit makes sure as much of the energy as possible, as much of the electricity as possible, goes straight into your system, straight into powering the graphics card, the RAM, the motherboard, all that kind of stuff, all the parts we've chosen. It's a really solid unit, and it's from EVGA. I mean, it's nice and reliable. It's good to go more expensive with a power supply, and a slightly bit overkill because it has the capability, if it wanted to wipe out your whole system. Talking there as if it had a brain. But that wraps it up for this build. If you did enjoy this video, please do drop a like rating and subscribe. I'll leave Amazon links, as I already mentioned, to everything in the description below. Prices do change over time, so just be aware of that if things are a little bit different when you're watching this. And in aid of transparency, the links are the Amazon links are affiliate links, meaning any purchases made through them help me out because they give me a commission. That being said, I do hope you enjoyed this video. Follow my Twitter at GeekaWhat, and as always, we'll see you in the next GeekaWhat video.